Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I've always been a fan of Friday the 13th. I think I saw the first film on TV when I was a kid. Now, unfortunately, I missed them all in the theatre. They had all been out years before I discovered Friday the 13th, and I saw them all on video. But I did enjoy them, and I always loved the idea of camp, and I love films about, camps and stuff like that, horror films about camps, stuff like The Burning and, of course, Friday the 13th and stuff like that. And I'm really glad that when I was a kid, I kind of got to go to 3 camps. I don't know about people in the city, kids in the city, but I know in the country we did have camps and stuff like that. So I don't know how it worked in America, what time of the year everyone went to summer camp. I'm guessing America, summer, it's the middle of the year. I think because it's winter in the middle of the year and we're in Tasmania, I think we either went at the start of the year or late in the year. Now, the first camp I went to was, I think it was Deviot. Now, it was near, I think, there was water. I don't know if it was near the Tamar River or it was near the coast. But I remember going down in the bus, and it was sort of one big building and then a bunch of little cabins. And the girls stayed in the little cabins and the boys all stayed in this one big room with all these beds. Now, I got there and I took my green bag and I sat on a bed and I picked my bed, and I was really happy because of the view. I was right next to one of the windows and I really liked it. I was looking forward to it. But then, unfortunately for me, one of the kids who bullied me a bit, a couple of times, a couple of really memorable times, in primary school, took my bag off and decided that he was going to have that bed instead because he'd gotten there last. There weren't enough beds for all the boys. He just decided to take my space, and I went to the teacher, and they basically didn't do anything about it. And I ended up having to sleep on a balcony with a teacher. And I think there was another kid, because I think there was not enough room for everyone to sleep in the area. So I don't know, it was just me. It might have been just me, but it might have been someone else as well. And so I didn't get to have... The overall experience was good, but I didn't get to actually spend the night sleeping in the room with the kids. But there was probably an adult in there anyway. I can't remember if one of the teachers actually slept in the room. But so that wasn't a lot of fun, that part of it. But the camp itself was, good. I remember there was like things to do, and it was sort of like out in the bush, and all the cabins were all sort of separate. It felt kind of like the Friday the 13th Part 2 sort of camp. And I remember we went to the water. I'm not sure, again, if it was the river or the coastline, but I have a photo of me and a pet rock that I adopted. I had a red cap on that I was always wearing everywhere. I remember when we had to line up to take go and have a shower, because it's just big sort of space, and the teacher pulling it off my head before I went in for the shower because I kept it on. And we went to this one area where there was like a teacher sort of standing in a section, so we couldn't go where there was the water was too deep, and I think there was an area where there was like a whirlpool that you couldn't swim in and stuff. And I just remember, being at camp, and whenever I see a horror movie with kids at camp, I feel like I've done that, and I'm just glad I got to do that. And the other sort of similar time I got to do that was with Pony Club in our town. My mum sort of ran it for a while. She was one of the parents who sort of were running it, and we had land that was leased out to the Pony Club that people kept their horses on, and we had a horse there, so we would go out there all the time. And once a year they'd have the Pony Club camp, and basically they would have the stables area. They'd bring everyone's tents and everything out into the stables area, and the adults would sort of have the actual stables, which were like one-sided metal with no front on it. So it was just like an open space and cement, and people would sort of mostly camp in there, and other people would be in tents all around the area and they had a campfire, and it was mostly girls, and we would go out. I didn't get to go to the actual camp. My sister went, but we would go out when we went to feed the horses and visit and stay there. So I got to sit and toast marshmallows and, just listen to the girls tell, stories and just talk. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad I got to have that experience again of like sort of, sitting around a campfire with like, marshmallows and, staying, at like summer camp and that, like they did in the movies. guess I'll leave it there. There was one other place, I think I'll do a separate video for that. Actually, no, I'll just do it now. There was another place called South Mount Cameron that we went on, and this was, I think this was the last year of primary school, and it was a little bit older. The first one was, I think I was in year 2 or something, or 3 or something, so I was young. The second one, I'm pretty sure was year 5 or 6, I think maybe 6. It was a little bit different. Again, it was like one big, I think it was like the same sort of thing where the main sort of area was, had the boys in it. I think that's because they felt the boys needed to be watched over more carefully. And there was another smaller building, or maybe different cabins that the girls stayed in. And I remember it was sort of up above the sort of the sort of ground, because it was like on a hill and it was on an angle. And you sort of would go into the sort of room where we ate or whatever. I don't know, the mess, not a mess hall, that's what we'd call on like a ship or something, I don't know. But it's kind of big, and you'd look out over it, and you felt like you were really up like on a mountain. And I remember I actually got to stay in the main room with all the rest of the boys, and it was just a big long 2 rows of bunk beds, and a window at the end of the hall, and just a lot of hanging around, and just sort of, you know, I like the idea of actually being with all the other kids at summer camp and not sort of, you know, being at home. This is something about sort of this sort of like the group sort of communal feel, all of us sort of doing activities together and stuff. It was nice. But unfortunately, though, I was going through a period of sleepwalking, and apparently I was walking up and down the aisle, and I woke up one morning standing up with my arms on the top bunk, because I was sleeping on the top bunk like I was trying to get back into bed, and I woke up like that, standing up, half sort of hanging off the bed. It was really weird, and apparently I was walking around at night, which was a bit creepy for the other people, like just seeing this kid walking up and down the aisle. But yeah, I remember we climbed up this mountain, I think it was South Mount Cameron, and I remember whenever I watched Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and you see William Shatner climbing up Yosemite, it reminds me of that, even though it wasn't as steep, of course. But there was one section that kind of looks a bit like one of the shots in that, and it was this big curved sort of section. I remember when we were going back down, I slipped and I slid down it, and I cut my my leg, and it tore through my pants and everything, because I was basically sliding down the side of this hill. It was sort of like a mountain, but not really that big. I have some pictures from that, and we did like, you know, the flying foxes and stuff like that, and we had archery and activities where we had to go out and find things out, and have you know, tracks that we had to go through, and it was just fun. I'm just glad I got to go to camp. And I went to 3, 2 proper ones I stayed at, and I think we're only there for like a week. I don't think it was like a weekend. I think it was like a week or something. But it wasn't long. It wasn't like in America, I think parents would send their kids away for like a couple of weeks because they don't want to deal with them. It's like, well, they go to school all year, and in the middle of the year when we're supposed to have them off, we send them away to camp. So it wasn't like that. It was more not being sent away to get rid of us. It was more like going somewhere to do something fun and having activities and doing stuff as a group and all that. And I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to share those 2 memories. And also the Pony Club one, because that was cool as well. And that was the only time I got to do anything like that, except actually there was one time we went to Hobart, and we did stay in this weird place. And it was not like a camp, but it was like we stayed there for I think a weekend. We went to Hobart for the weekend. I don't know why we went, because I lived in Georgetown, which was about half an hour from Launceston, which is a city on the other end of the state. And we went down. I think we went to see the chocolate factory, because they actually had a Cadbury factory. And of course, being kids, we grew up, we read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We all wanted to see the chocolate factory in Hobart, so we went down there for that. And we ate Pizza Hut. I remember we went down this bus. It was this big trip for us, and we went to the top of the mountain in Hobart, and we saw a little bit of snow, which we had never seen before. And we went and ate at like Pizza Hut. It was like this big sort of giant table with all us kids and everything. And I stayed, might be blending 2 memories, but I know we stayed in a hotel, and I stayed with my friend one time, and we slept in the same bed. We had bunk beds, but I got in his bed because we wanted to read the same comics and stuff. And then we stayed, and I was in a room with 4 other boys, and we were there for a little while. I'm mixing 2 memories, and I remember that was the trip that I didn't have the amount of money I wanted, and I could have bought Megatron because I saw him in a store, and he was on discount because he was old, and I could have got him, but I didn't have enough money, and I knew how much money I needed to have, and my dad wouldn't give it to me. And they actually said, you can only have this amount of money on like the teacher said. And he said, no, you've been told you only have that amount. But I knew I had to have more, and that's why, because I was going to buy that. I ended up buying another figure instead. And I just remember staying there with the other boys, and there was a creepy cleaner who'd come in and that, and I don't remember what that was for. But either way, I enjoyed going to the actual camps, and I just wanted to share that because it was just, some of my favourite memories. And I love watching horror movies about kids that go away to camps, and it's like I feel like I was there. I feel like I can understand like what it would have been like